Town of Maupin. It spread to more than 10,000 acres. The other broke out this morning on the eastern edge of the Dalles. You see that on the right along I-84. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm David Molko.
And I'm Laurel Porter. That fire near Maupin is Oregon's largest fire of the year. Blair Best and photojournalist John Goodwin witnessed both blazes today and report tonight from near the fire line.
This is a level 3 evacuation zone about 3 miles from where the fire actually started. And while it may not look like much, crews have been out here all day putting out hot spots. They still say it's 0% contained, but that's because these high winds could cause the fire to start up again at any moment. Alert and around the clock. Fire crews spent the past 48 hours fighting Oregon's largest wildfire of the year.
This fire is far from being completely extinguished.
Thursday on the fire line, crews put out hotspots after a threatening scene of flames and smoke made its way across more than 10,000 acres of Wasco County this week.
We had a couple of areas yesterday that took a run on us.
Fires were sporadic in areas, spots everywhere.
At Lee Liverman's house in Maupin, it's been an all-out fight to keep the flames away.
I watched the actual fire and the wind swoop right up over my head.
We had to cut through our gate to let the fire department through to the other side so that they could fight the fire over there and stop it from coming here.
They won't leave their home despite evacuation orders in place.
My mom died in this house, so I really don't want to lose this property.
I said, I'm sorry, but I wanted to protect my animals, so we decided that was the best thing to do.
Mr. Squiggles, they're my family. I have no kids. These are my children. The horses are watching you.
As of Thursday night, the couple's home was still standing.
It was overwhelming. It was definitely overwhelming.
But the threat isn't over.
The fire usually sits or can sit underneath, some of the ground cover out here. And then as this wind picks up and you get just the right condition with a little bit of heat addition to it, and then that stuff will take off.
Crews from that wildfire in Juniper Flat were called to help fight another wildfire here in the Dalles that quickly spread to the inner city earlier today.
It's a little too close for comfort.
Covering 10 acres within city limits, these flames threatened several businesses and prompted level 2 and 3 evacuations.
Super close by. There wasn't really a lot of wind blowing in this direction, so we didn't have to deal too much with smoke.
For now, both fires are under control, but for many, the fear from the past few days lingers on.
This is one of the scariest things I've ever been through, and I wouldn't wish it upon anybody.
The cause of both fires are still under investigation, and crews encourage people who live in the area to keep an eye out on those evacuation levels. In the Dalles, Blair Best, KGW News.
Definitely tense moments. Meteorologist Chris McGinnis joins us now with a look at the conditions around those fires and throughout the rest of the state. Chris?
You know, Laura, I think you could tell by from Blair's shot there with the breeze blowing. It was a breezy day in the Dalles. They had wind gusts on the order of nearly 40 miles an hour for a good chunk of the early afternoon. So obviously wind not helping the firefighting effort there. But, and this is a huge thing, the temperatures across the East Gorge and the Columbia Basin and central and eastern Oregon have come down a good 15 degrees from just yesterday, and obviously 20 to 25 degrees from where they were for the better part of 12 or 14 days. So that part of the state is seeing some slow improvement here in the weather. The fact that it's even cooler today in the Dalles than it has been helps, if just a little bit. The other thing is, with the onshore flow that we've seen here across a lot of western Oregon, the humidity levels have come up a little bit, obviously as evidenced with the cloud cover that we had this morning. In terms of air quality, not really major issues here statewide. We don't see any significant smoke issues right now. As we zoom into the northwest quadrant of the state here, you can see all green dots on our air quality sensor. So that's good, right? What fires that we do have are not putting out a ton of smoke at this moment. The biggest smoke offender here, actually in the state of Oregon, is right here. You'll see in our visible satellite imagery. In the last couple of hours here in eastern Lane County, that's a fire, the Cedar Creek fire that just sprung up to nearly 900 acres now near Waldo Lake. And also, of course, the McKinney fire burning in Northern California. That's also putting out quite a bit of smoke. So that's kind of the smoke and fire situation here across the Northwest. We do have red flag warnings in effect for high fire danger in south central Oregon tomorrow. We'll walk you through that and get a look ahead to a nice forecast tomorrow, but a hot weekend coming our way. More on that in just a few minutes.
Yeah, here it comes. Thanks, Chris. Let's tell you about another wildfire that is also growing. This is in eastern Washington, the Williams Lake Fire. expanded to more than 3,200 acres over just the past 24 hours. It's burning near Cheney, Washington. That's a town of about 12,000, about 20 minutes south of Spokane, also home to Eastern Washington University. Evacuations underway there, while about 200 firefighters and 12 aircraft are battling that blaze. So we'll keep an eye on all of these for you for the latest updates, continuing coverage on wildfire season 24/7. Just download our KGW News app or head to our website. That's kgw.com.
Almost 3 years after he was killed, police have made an arrest in the death of a Portland activist. In October 2019, Sean Keeler died when a car seemed to deliberately hit him in northeast Portland. The Oregonian reported he was hit after leaving Cider Riot, a bar popular with left-wing activists. Today, police announced they arrested 47-year-old Christopher Knight for Keeler's murder. Police say at this time they don't believe the crime was politically motivated.
To the battle against monkeypox, and today, following in the path of several major cities, the Biden administration declared a public health emergency. Now, that allows it to collect more data about cases to accelerate vaccine distribution and access emergency funds. In the Pacific Northwest today, Washington released more on case counts and how it plans to respond. Erica Zucco with the details.
New data shows 11 Washington counties reporting 166 cases of what's been referred to as monkeypox, an illness the State Department of Health now calls MPV. The greatest number concentrated in King County, 144. Those numbers track back to May. The U.S. has seen more than 6,000 cases. Lines have formed for limited vaccines across the nation, also an issue in Washington state.
It makes it very difficult and challenging for us to continue to work with our communities when we don't have as much of the vaccine supply. As
of today, Health and Human Services has set aside around 24,000 doses for Washington state, with some shipments still on the way. The department says it's advocating for more, but relying on federal allocations. Meanwhile, it's launching education campaigns about how the virus spreads.
There's absolutely no place for stigma in our community's response to monkeypox.
The department acknowledged it's currently disproportionately impacting the LGBTQ+ community, but emphasized anyone can catch it in a number of ways.
It's about the behaviors and not one specific to sexual orientation or gender identity. Anyone can get MPV.
MPV can spread through contact with infectious rash, scabs, or bodily fluid, through prolonged respiratory face-to-face contact, or potentially through touching objects or clothing used by someone with the illness.
And when it comes to vaccines, health officials say they are focusing on people with known exposure or who might be most at risk. If you believe you're in either of those groups, you're going to want to contact your health provider or your county health department.
New developments tonight from Capitol Hill. Senate Democrats say they have an agreement needed to pass the Inflation Reduction Act. In a statement tonight, Senator Kyrsten Sinema says she agreed to changes in the measure's tax and energy provisions and is ready to move forward. Her vote is seen as pivotal for the bill to pass in the divided Senate. The sweeping economic legislation addresses Democrat priorities on climate change and health care. Sinema said she agreed to the bill after Democrats removed the carried interest tax provision. It would have closed a loophole that helps wealthy private equity and hedge fund managers pay lower taxes.
Hey, you just got a sneak peek of it. Let's turn to the Washington primary now. And as the vote count continues, Clark County tells us they are at 44% turnout. That's compared to 36% back in 2018 amidst what the auditor calls a very energetic campaign for the 3rd Congressional District. Here it is. Let's give you a quick look. Democrat Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez still out front. Incumbent Jamie Herrera Butler in number 2 with about 23%. But look at this, closing the gap for the second spot. Joe Kent, he is now at 22%. We're going to be watching this one closely. Remember, it is the top 2 that move on to November. Clark County, by the way, telling us tonight they've processed about 82,000 ballots, but over 60,000 remaining. Keep in mind, of course, this district extends well beyond the county. Something to watch. Something else that caught our eye tonight, a TikTok that appears to have been recorded Tuesday evening at a ballot drop box at Hazel Dell Transit Center. Now, it's had more than 74,000 likes, nearly 10,000 comments. Let's take a look, and then we'll explain.
Why are you not allowing us to put them in the ballot box?
Because it takes us about 25 minutes to gather all the ballots that are in there and get it. We have to close it right at 8 o'clock, and it takes us about that long to close it.
All right, this video goes on to show the election worker tell the driver, yes, she can still drop her ballot directly in that box if she wants to. But given the extreme sensitivity around election integrity in general, we wanted to know if this is something that's at all unusual. So we reached out to the Clark County auditor. He oversees elections, and he told me not only is staffing their 22 drop boxes in the last half hour before the election night cutoff typical, it's also not new.
So that is absolutely the procedure that we have established. That's a little bit of an awkward way to explain it, but it does take some time for them to close down the ballot drop box. But the real fundamental requirement is we have to identify who's in line at 8 o'clock p.m. And the best way we can do that is to get that line moving as quickly as possible prior to 8 o'clock p.m.
So there you go. Kimsey calls ballot drop boxes 100% secure and says whether your ballot ends up in the box or in the election worker's blue bag, it all ends up sealed, secure, and in the same place.
A Bill of Rights for college athletes. That's what some U.S. lawmakers, including a senator from Oregon, want to see. And they're introducing legislation to try to make it happen. Orlando Sanchez joins us here in the studio looking at what such a Bill of Rights would include. Orlando?
Yeah, Laurel, the game has changed. The landscape of college sports continues to evolve. Conference realignment, billion-dollar TV deals, and 3 letters. NIL, an opportunity for college athletes to profit on their name, image, and likeness. Oregon Senator Ron Wyden is among some of the top lawmakers introducing legislation to help college athletes.
NIL has made its way to Capitol Hill.
With the size of these TV contracts and TV revenues, I think you'd almost answer your question, why not?
5 U.S. senators, including Oregon's Ron Wyden, are introducing the College Athletes' Bill of Rights. Wyden, a former college athlete, is passionate about this.
It always came back to me around sort of 3 areas. You want athletes to have a chance to be healthy and to be healthy in the years ahead. You want them to get their education, and you want them to have financial security.
The bill allows athletes to market their names, image, or likeness with very few restrictions. It also makes sure athletes can keep their scholarships for as long as it takes to earn their degree. And it aims to improve health and safety standards, as well as establishing a medical trust fund, covering the costs of out-of-pocket medical expenses years after they're done playing. In a press release, Oregon women's basketball star Sedona Prince was quoted in support of the bill, saying she nearly filed for bankruptcy because of medical bills.
They're student athletes. We're concerned about their health, concerned about their education, and we want them to have the opportunity when they work hard to have some measure of financial security. And this bill in each of these areas moves in the right direction.
The College Athletes' Bill of Rights also strengthens compliance when it comes to Title IX and requires schools to report on a variety of things, like booster donations or even the amount of hours athletes spend at practice, watching film, and traveling. A commission would be created to make sure current athletes know their rights.
And everybody to walk away saying they're treated fairly. And that ought to be a big part of what sports are all about.
There's no timetable on when this bill could pass. Senator Wyden says there's a lot on the congressional calendar, specifically involving an inflation bill. So he plans on working all weekend, possibly voting around the clock. David?
Well, thanks, Orlando. Stick around for this next story because I have a feeling you might like it. You might say it attracts people from all walks of life. A preview of the local celebration of shoes, art, and culture.
We know Orlando's got a great collection of kicks, and this is attracting plenty of people too. In and Out now has some competition in Oregon when it comes to fast food favorites that bring in the crowds. It's sneaker week in Portland, but if you think it's all about footwear, you'd be wrong. Bryant Clerkley shows us the different events celebrating not just shoes, but self-expression.
Sneaker Week has been going since 2017. More than 30 designers are participating this year, and I spoke with one designer that's hoping to network and turn this week into more opportunities for himself.
I haven't really landed the role I've wanted yet, and so moments like this are really special for me.
Shoe designer Michael Nerlino will feature some of his latest designs during Sneaker Week, a week-long celebration of shoes, art, and culture. Michael will have the opportunity to mingle and network at a kickoff event at Jupiter Next on Burnside.
Sneaker Week events are some of the most authentically cultural events that we have here in Portland. It's a diverse mix of people from all walks of life that truly enjoy one thing: sneakers, storytelling, personal expression.
Organizers expect thousands of people to come through the Sneaker Week events in the next week. More than 30 creators are involved. Even the Portland Art Museum is involved. There you can see a sneaker-focused exhibit and admire art created by BIPOC artists. Coyote Balogan, or DJ Ambush, works as one of the promotional partners for Sneaker Week.
We want to make sure that people within different levels of art and different disciplines are represented and have the opportunity to, display their art. Creating sneakers is art.
Back at Jupiter Next, Michael is hoping Sneaker Week turns into a bigger opportunity for himself.
The hope is for the exposure to be a stepping stone. It's fun to make this stuff. It's very labor intensive. I'm very detail oriented, and I strive for perfection.
The events are free for Sneaker Week members. If you are interested, you can go to their Sneaker Week PDX website. I'll have that link posted on our page, kgw.com. Bryant Clerkley, KGW News.
Well, from animal style to spicy chicken, we'll get there, I promise. If you thought traffic was bad at In-N-Out Burger in Kaiser, well, things got even more crowded with Chick-fil-A opening up. We stopped by for opening day, and the line was already around the block. Both spots are in the Kaiser Station Center. That's just off I-5. Look at the cones and the lineups. We talked to some customers who found creative ways, they say, to avoid waiting.
It's a lot of fun. The lines are really long, but if you order on the app, you can find someone to drop you off. You can kind of skip the line a little bit.
They actually had an app. I didn't know they had an app. You did. Of course, Chris knew. Chris knows everything. The new fast food location brings about 150 new jobs with it. And Chick-fil-A is also recognizing what it calls 100 local heroes making an impact in Kaiser by giving them free food for a year. True to Chick-fil-A form, though, yes, they are closed on Sunday. I gotta say, though, I like In-N-Out because of the not-so-secret menu, right?
Right. And, I think we'd all line up for more of the weather we had today.
Oh, is that awesome or what?
Yes.
And it's just as awesome, because we're on at this unique time this evening. We actually get a shot of some really pretty sunsets. So let's give you a little sunset tour.
Oh, that's magical.
Yeah, isn't it? That is Haystack Rock at Cannon Beach along the North Oregon coast. The sun is down, but we still have some brightness in the sky, and that is just spectacular. Here's another live shot from Yaquita Bay in Newport. Look at the reflection of the cloud cover in the bay. The bay is flat, calm, and that is just pretty. And one last shot up onto Mount Hood we go, with the distant Mount Jefferson and the Three Sisters off to the south there. What a pretty shot, right? Just a gorgeous evening out there and a really nice break in hot weather. We slowly took the edge off our heat here in northwestern Oregon, but across central and eastern Oregon, they had a longer duration and more intense heat wave. So it's really nice to see temperatures coming down for folks out in the Dalles and Pendleton and Bend right now at 75. It's 70, of course, here in Portland. Really, really nice. All right, let's get you out the plan anyway for Friday. There may be some brief morning cloud cover tomorrow, but it will not be anything like what we had today, right? In fact, we even had a little bit of mist and drizzle in some locations in the northern part of the metro area getting up into Clark County. Not the case tomorrow. In fact, there are some models that suggest we won't see any marine push inland overnight. So with that in mind, we will see full sunshine for the most part during the day on Friday, and I've got high temperatures obviously warming up quite a bit. All right, real quick, I mentioned this just a couple of minutes ago. I wanted to highlight this again. A red flag warning for high fire danger for south central Oregon. Some of our models are indicating not only an uptick in the wind in that part of the state. In fact, at the coast, it's going to turn pretty breezy tomorrow afternoon. Note the wind through the Columbia River Gorge easing off from what it was today. But as we get down towards central Oregon and points south, those west winds really pick up 20 to 30 miles an hour tomorrow afternoon. The other thing that we're watching is the possibility for some more thunder showers popping late tomorrow in south central Oregon. This is Futurecast tomorrow morning. You'll note not a whole lot of cloud cover here in the metro area. If we see any, it'll burn off pretty quickly. So high confidence in a very sunny day for us. But as we look down to the south, you can see some yellow and green blobs on the map indicating at least the chance for some thunder showers to pop up. With that comes lightning strikes and the potential for more fire starts, and that's why that area is under that red flag warning for the day tomorrow. After that passes, the weather starts to warm up a little bit, and I'll show you that in a second. All right, through the Columbia River Gorge, temperatures in the 80s to near 90 in the Dalles. We've got temperatures across central Oregon in the mid 80s. I say hazy sunshine because there is a little bit of wildfire smoke in the air there. And at the beach tomorrow, mostly sunny, breezy afternoon, gorgeous with temperatures in Pacific City getting up to near 70. You can see the I-5 corridor tomorrow, a nice comfortable start, waking up to temperatures generally in the mid 50s in the metro areas. But as you get away from downtown, there will be some low 50-degree temperatures, maybe 50 on the dot as you get into some of the rural locations in the Willamette Valley. So a nice comfortable morning tomorrow. With the full sunshine, though, we will warm it up a little bit more. 83 to 85 or 86 is pretty much the range here up and down the I-5 corridor and across eastern Oregon. Again, warm, but nowhere near where you've been and nowhere near where we're headed as we go into the weekend. So let's talk about that real quick. We do have a heat advisory in effect now for the weekend, for Sunday, from noon Sunday through Monday evening. So a couple of days of some high heat, and we start to ratchet up the heat a little bit on Saturday. I've got us in the low 90s on Saturday with full sunshine. And yes, that is a 100-degree day on Sunday. Guys, that would make our, what? Are we keeping track here? Is that our third or fourth? You know, I'm the weather guy, and I can't even remember because we also had a couple of days right at like 99. So it's been a hot late July and early August, and our forecast, we're kind of up and down on the escalator there. A hot Sunday and Monday, and then we start to cool things back just a little bit next week. Summer is
short-lived there.
This is a short-lived heat wave, and we are fairly confident about that.
That makes it a little more tolerable.
Bearable, yeah.
So when I go wah, 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 what do you think of?
Charlie Brown.
There you go, Charlie Brown's teacher. Okay, class, grab your number 2 pencils. How many times did your teachers wah, wah, wah say that? But how exactly did they get the name number 2 pencils? And what happened to number 1? We've got the good old story behind the graphite. That's next. Well, get out your sharpeners. It is the first week of August, which means back to school is not far off, and our KGW school supply drive is now going strong. Our goal is to help 15,000 local students, and one of the things they need most is pencils.
And with a twist on our series, What's in a Name, Devin Haskins found out how the number 2 pencil came to be.
Every pencil will leave a mark. They can craft a story or make a work of art famous, or do something as simple as write your name so the teacher knows who it's from.
And hence it's a way of recording thoughts, ideas, history, inventions. It's a way of thinking with your hands as well as your mind.
That's Henry Petrosky, retired distinguished professor of civil engineering at Duke University. He wrote a book called The Pencil, A History of Design and Circumstance. The first pencils were made hundreds of years ago after graphite, it's what we write with in the pencils, was found in England. The carbon proved to be an effective utensil, although a messy one.
Well, when you did that, of course, your hands got very dirty.
So to fix the mess, it was wrapped in string and later evolved to a wood casing, like the kind we use today. It's estimated more than 15 billion pencils are produced each year, and there's usually only one you'll find on your kid's school supply list. You could call it the Goldilocks choice of pencils.
Number 2 was the one that was a happy medium between being too hard and being too soft.
When American poet and philosopher Henry David Thoreau was working at his family's pencil factory in his younger years, he created a hardness scale that rated each pencil's graphite makeup. That number 2 rating is based on that scale for hardness. There's 1, 2, 3, or 4. The lower the number, the lighter the black. The higher the number, the darker.
In America, we pretty much buy pencils according to this number.
Making the number 2 pencil the number 1 choice for teachers.
It doesn't have to be pressed too hard to make a readable line, and it's not so fine a line usually.
And that's what's in a name.
Henry David Thoreau, who knew? Okay, number 2 pencils, line, paper, crayons, markers, some of the most needed supplies for our KGW school supply drive. If you'd like to drop off your donation in person, you can do that. KGW is going to be at the Clackamas Promenade this Saturday from 11 to 2.
And we still have another half hour of news ahead. That includes Brittany Griner, now sentenced to 9 years in prison in Russia. What comes next in the effort to free the WNBA star? And a cross-river battle, why some Washington breweries are now suing the state of Oregon.
This is a KGW News Special Edition.
Welcome back for another half hour of this special edition of KGW News. In top national news, WNBA star Brittany Griner has been sentenced to 9 years in prison in Russia over drug charges.
And this comes amidst heightened tensions between the U.S. and Russia as attention now turns to a potential prisoner swap. NBC's Chris Pallone has the latest on the efforts to bring Griner home.
Yeah, that the team.
Before being sentenced, WNBA star Brittany Griner apologized.
I never meant to break any laws here.
Russian authorities said they found less than a gram of cannabis oil in Griner's luggage as she arrived at the Moscow airport in February. An error made while quickly packing for her trip, Griner said.
I made an honest mistake, and I hope that in your ruling that it doesn't end my life here.
But the judge ignored Griner's pleas, sentencing her to 9 years, 1 year less than the maximum. In a statement, President Biden deemed Griner's sentence unacceptable and said his administration is working to bring her and another American prisoner, Paul Whelan, home as soon as possible.
There is no rule of law in Russia. People need to remember that. There's no rights.
Two sources say the U.S. government has offered Russia a prisoner swap, releasing convicted Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout to secure Griner and Whelan's freedom.
We urge the Russians, again, to seriously consider that proposal, to act on it, and let's get these two Americans home where they belong.
Griner's friends and supporters now hope negotiations between the two countries intensify.
Whatever conversations Secretary Blinken and his counterpart need to have, we trust that they are having them with all deliberate speed because it's time.
Griner's Russian attorneys say they will appeal. As she was taken from the courtroom, Brittany Griner said, "I love my family," to reporters gathered in the hallway. In Washington, Chris Pallone, NBC News.
In Kentucky today, 4 Louisville police officers are facing federal charges in connection with the death of Breonna Taylor. She is the 26-year-old black EMT who was shot to death in her own home. You might remember in March of 2020, 4 officers knocked down Taylor's door while executing a search warrant. Her boyfriend said he thought the police were intruders and so shot at them. They fired back, killing Taylor. The U.S. Attorney General now accuses the officers of violating her civil rights and lying to obtain their search warrant.
We allege that the defendants knew their actions in falsifying the affidavit could create a dangerous situation, and we allege these unlawful acts resulted in Ms. Taylor's death.
Taylor's family says this day is long overdue, and they hope it is the first step toward justice.
A major scare at the Mall of America in Minnesota today. A shooting inside the building forced it into lockdown this afternoon. Witnesses say it started with a fight between 2 groups of men, then it escalated to gunshots. The shooter ran from the mall. Police say they have not found any injured victims. The mall will be closed for the rest of the night.
Well, today a Texas jury ruled InfoWars host and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones must pay more than $4 million to the family of a Sandy Hook shooting victim. The ruling is for damages he owes resulting from his false claim the 2012 shooting, which killed 26 people, was a hoax. Now, tomorrow the jury is going to consider a punitive fine. The plaintiffs in this case are among several Sandy Hook families who filed lawsuits against Jones, arguing his false claims have led to years of abuse from his followers. On the stand, Jones testified he now realizes the shooting was, quote, 100% real.
Dick Cheney has some harsh words for former President Trump. He appeared in a new campaign ad supporting his daughter Liz Cheney in her primary race for Wyoming's lone House seat.
In our nation's 246-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. He tried to steal the last election using lies and violence to keep himself in power after the voters had rejected him. He is a coward. A real man wouldn't lie to his supporters. He lost his election.
Some polls show Trump-backed Republican candidate Harriet Hagman has more than a 20-point lead on Cheney. The Wyoming primary will be held on August 16th.
Well, let's return to headlines in our region now, and some good news in the fight against one wildfire. The McKinney fire, which is burning in Northern California near the Oregon border, appears to have stalled, at least when it comes to growth. The fire has now torched close to 59,000 acres. It's about 10% contained, but rain and lower temperatures have really helped out crews down there. 4 people, though, have died in connection with the fire. And amidst evacuations in the area, dozens of pets were also rescued. At least 160 of them ended up at a place called Rescue Ranch in Wairika. It includes a Chug and her 5 puppies. That's a Chihuahua Pug mix. The shelter manager says some of the dogs could stay at the shelter for months, and while there are concerns about having enough staff or food, they are committed to helping.
You know, it's highly stressful for the dogs, so we want to make sure that we can do everything we can to make sure that their stay here is going to be as stress-free as possible.
You know, he adds they've received a lot of donations, people offering their time since that fire first started. You can check out their website. It is rrdog.org.
3 Washington breweries are suing the state of Oregon, including one in Vancouver. They want to make it easier and more affordable to distribute beer across the state line. They say the laws right now are unfair. Catherine Cook talked to the owner of one of those breweries.
At Fortside Brewing Company in Vancouver, there's always something new on tap.
Stratospheric Hazy IPA is one of our latest.
Co-founder Mike DeFabio is proud of what they do. He wants to share it with others, including businesses across the Columbia River, without breaking the bank. Which brings us to the latest thing Fortside is brewing up, a lawsuit against the state of Oregon.
It's kind of economic discrimination.
Right now, Washington brewers cannot direct ship to customers' homes in Oregon, but Oregon breweries can direct ship to Washington. That's one complaint in the lawsuit filed by Fortside and 2 other Washington breweries. Here's the other part. To distribute beer to Oregon businesses, Oregon law requires out-of-state breweries to go through a third-party distributor, something that, once again, Oregon breweries don't have to do when distributing to Washington. Fortside started their own distribution company in Oregon, but it's far from a fix-all.
It's a whole nother company, a whole nother federal wholesaler's permit, another state permit with the OLCC. It costs us thousands of dollars a year. It's pretty excessive costs for a small business.
The lawsuit addresses Oregon's 3-tier control system: manufacturers, distributors, and retailers.
Why it's set up that way is so that a manufacturer doesn't exert influence over a retailer, so that there's more, an even playing field for all brewers or other manufacturers.
Bryant Haley is a spokesperson for the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission. Because the laws fall on the OLCC to enforce, its commissioner is named in the lawsuit.
We're in a holding pattern, waiting to see what the courts play out. If the legislature wants to take action on this and perhaps give us different guidance, that's something that could come down the line. But as an administrative agency, we're set to follow the laws and statutes that are put towards us.
Fortside is one of 32 breweries in Southwest Washington, and right now, one of just 6 of those that ships its beer to Oregon. They think that number would be a lot bigger if there were fewer restrictions, financial and otherwise.
These guys make great beer.
Michael Dines is a Fortside regular, but crossed the Columbia, and he says so many Oregonians don't know what they're missing.
It just seems like there's great beer being made on both sides of it, so the rules around that I think should kind of mirror one another in my opinion.
Mike DeFabio will raise a glass to that.
It's not like we're getting an advantage to sell to Oregon. It's just leveling the playing field.
In Vancouver, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
The Coast Guard's working to clean up an oil spill caused by a sunken ferry in Astoria. Crews will be removing anything that could pollute the Columbia River. They essentially need to refloat the ferry and then drain the oil. They put up booms around the site to absorb what's leaking, though it's still not clear how much spilled. The ferry sank last week, and the cause is still under investigation.
Well, let us talk about magic mushrooms. Oregon voters decided 2 years ago to legalize the psychedelic compound found inside them. It is called psilocybin. Starting in January, it can be sold with some significant guardrails, though as Alma McCarty reports, some counties, well, they're not happy about the timeline.
Taking magic mushrooms in Oregon will be legal starting next year. In the meantime, health leaders and industry experts are working to finalize the rules around how it's produced and administered.
This is available to individuals 21 years of age or older. It does not need a prescription or a referral from a provider.
Angie Albee is with Oregon Psilocybin Services, part of the Oregon Health Authority. She explains you won't be able to purchase it and take it home. Instead, clients will first be assessed before a licensed facilitator administers the drug.
At the licensed service center during that administration session, the client will meet with the facilitator. Psilocybin products will be sold to the client, and that's where the psilocybin services, the actual journey takes place.
Most of the action is internal, and that can be different for different folks because we come to this experience with our own stuff. So that's kind of the neat thing about psilocybin and the experience of psilocybin as a therapeutic agent. Kind of goes where it needs to go.
Tom Eckert, a Portland psychotherapist, campaigned for psilocybin services in Oregon since 2015. He previously served on the advisory board and is opening a facilitator training program called InnerTrack.
Yeah, I've always thought that the beating heart of this whole program is practitioners, the facilitators. We need competent, trained practitioners who really understand this specific modality.
As many seek out more info on how to become a practitioner or how to access services in 2023, some local counties are pushing back. Clackamas County commissioners unanimously voted to put a temporary local ban on psilocybin on the November ballot.
I do think that we need to put a pause on this.
I too am concerned that we're getting the cart before the horse as the state has not finalized these rules on the administration of psilocybin.
Meanwhile, Washington County commissioners went in the other direction this week, deciding against a psilocybin ban.
Washington County voters approved this by a vote of 59% in November of 2020 and statewide by 56%. So I think we've needed to be prepared for this.
Alma McCarty, KGW News.
Well, still ahead with another heat wave headed our way. We thought we'd check on a curious claim. Can keeping your AC unit in the shade actually save you cash? We'll verify that up next.
66 in downtown Portland right now. Let's take you live to the Oregon coast. What's left of our sunset here from our Chinook Winds Casino Resort in Lincoln City. You can see Cascade Head off in the distance. A lack of cloud cover out there this evening. I think we've got sunshine, full sunshine in the forecast tomorrow. And as David alluded to, yes, more hot weather in our weekend forecast. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes.
Welcome back. We are headed for, yes, another heat wave in the Pacific Northwest. And because we can't all just escape to Hawaii on a whim, as much as we'd like to, any trick to stay cool without breaking the bank is more than welcome.
And one viral claim suggests putting a shade over your AC unit could save you some cash. Ariane Dato looks into that in tonight's Verify.
First, the heat wave hit the Northeast. Now, the West Coast is feeling the heat. And many people are looking for the best ways to stay cool without breaking the bank. Verify viewer Jennifer from Texas asked us to verify if one trick that's making the rounds online is true.
Hello, Verify. This is Jennifer from Texas. And what I'd like to know is if covering your air conditioner unit with an umbrella really does help save with power costs and really does make your air conditioner run more efficiently.
So Jennifer, let's verify. Our sources are Wes Davis, Technical Services Director for the Air Conditioning Contractors of America, Florida Solar Energy Center, and Energy Vanguard, a firm that focuses on training and consulting for building performance. Putting a shade over an outdoor AC unit like this one doesn't improve energy efficiency in any noticeable way, according to air conditioning expert Wes Davis.
It's not statistically impactful.
A 1996 study conducted by the Florida Solar Energy Center studied the impact of shading centralized AC units. According to the study, localized shading over a unit could, in theory, reduce electricity consumption, but the results weren't conclusive. In fact, it could make your AC unit perform worse. That's because the method of shading, like a tarp or an umbrella, could restrict airflow to the unit. Let me show you why that's an issue. The AC in a central air system works by first pulling the air from inside of your house and separating the heat from it. It then sends the heat out to the condenser, which is the box with a fan that sits outside of your house. The condenser's fan pulls the outside air into the unit, and then that air absorbs the heat before it's dumped back outside of the unit. In order to work properly, the outdoor portion of an AC unit requires air to flow over the coil and fan, according to Energy Vanguard. The company says objects placed directly overhead of the unit blocking the fan, like an umbrella or a tarp or even plant debris, could restrict the airflow and trap heat over the unit. If less air flows over the coil, less heat is removed, Energy Vanguard says. That means the whole cycle warms up a bit and your AC works harder to keep your home cool. So we can verify, no. Putting a shade over central AC's outside unit does not reliably reduce power cost or help it run more efficiently. And it could potentially make it run worse. With your Verify, I'm Ariane Datil. Now it's time for me to go back in the house where it's cool.
So interesting. You know what's really actually helpful is if you remember to do your maintenance early, check on it, call the AC guy before the heat wave hits, right?
Yeah,
before
like
it breaks
April.
down.
Although about that, you got to do it because they do need to turn the AC up like really, really high to really test
check it.
So we actually checked ours out one year in December, and the guy came and said, maybe not. You're a little early. So just the word of the wise on that one.
Those of us with AC are happy to have it because it's been a hot
You do know this, don't you?
Yes.
Now that you have AC. Well, yeah, so let's get to, I've got some hot weather stats for you because it's been hot so far. After the slow start, we have already cranked out 15 90-degree days at PDX. We've topped the century mark 3 times. We've been close to it others. The highest temp so far, 102. We've done that twice on July 26th and July 30th. It's not out of the question that we do it again this weekend, by the way. More on that in a second. Our average number for 90-degree days in a summer is 15. We're already there. There still are 6 weeks left in summer last time I checked. So just so you know, it's been warm lately. And here's where we stack up in terms of 90-degree heat over the last couple of years. Remember I said our 30-year average is 15? We don't have very far to go to start inching into the top 5 in terms of 90-degree heat days at PDX. 31, of course, is the big benchmark. That was in the summer of 2018. That was a really hot year. But this year's shaping up to be pretty warm, and the 7-day forecast is warm. And beyond that, by the way, I thought I would point this out as well. This is the monthly temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. So this covers the entire month of August. And you can see that here in the Northwest, we're not in the bullseye, the jackpot of the really hot stuff, but we do trend above average in general for the entire month of August. So with that being said, there's probably not just one more hot weather spell in our forecast, but maybe 2 or 3, right? The next one comes this weekend. A heat advisory is in effect for the Portland, Vancouver metro area, Clark County, northern Clackamas County, portions of Washington County, the Columbia River Gorge, and the Upper Hood River Valley. This goes into effect Sunday at noon and lasts through Monday. And of course, down to the south, we also talked about this, a red flag warning for tomorrow for high fire danger down across south central Oregon. All right, the weekend forecast, 92 Saturday, 100 on Sunday. The record on Sunday, by the way, is 102. Not out of the question that we get there. Excuse me, it's 104. That, I think, is a bit out of reach, but you never know. All right, live look from the Oregon coast. Gorgeous there right now as we check out the visible satellite from earlier today. We, of course, woke up to widespread cloud cover, right? That fizzled, though, this afternoon. We finished the day with sunshine. And Futurecast shows the marine push tonight will not be nearly as stout as it was last night. In fact, some of us even had some sprinkles this morning. Futurecast tomorrow shows generally sunshine in our forecast all day long here in the Willamette Valley. If we see any cloud cover, it will be early and then it will burn off. So with that in mind, our 7-day forecast shows a warming trend. We step up a little bit. We're in the upper 70s today. We go 85 tomorrow, 92 on Saturday, 100 on Sunday. And then we start to take the edge off the heat a little bit on Monday, a little bit more so on Tuesday. That kind of looks like how our last heat wave ended. The good news is this one is not going to last 8 days. This one's just a little average 3-day.
Overnight lows still in the low 60s, which is good.
Instead of 70.
Right?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Chris. Books and buses. Up next, how the Beaverton Library is making it easier to read on the go.
So we were chatting about this last night. Did you finish Armored?
I know we're both reading it separately, and I still have just a few more pages to go, so tonight
Okay.
I'll finish tonight.
Same author as The Gray Man, by the way. You know I cannot put the hardbacks down, but I've got a question for all of you watching. Have you read a book lately?
The Beaverton City Library has filled up a new shelf with a lot of books, as you can see. As Stephen Redland shows us, just grab and go on your trip with the chance to read for free.
In the busy world of getting to and from places, time in transit is when folks who love to read.
They can come grab a book and entertain themselves.
Once you're on your bus or train, there's likely time to do it.
Check it out. We got a grab-and-go book corner here at the Beaverton Transit Station.
Beaverton Mayor Lacey Beatty just cut the ribbon on a new and old way to make that transit trip go faster. Along with TriMet and the Beaverton City Library, the city is making books easy to grab and go.
If you have a long way to go, you can just read the book and you're there.
All the books are free. You take some or one and keep it or give it away.
We just want to have the books get out into people's hands because they do no good sitting in our incredibly awesome library, but they do no good unless people are reading them.
What you grab is yours. If you want to give back a book,
On the bookmark inside there, it talks about where to take them to.
Take them to the Central Beaverton Library on the corner of 5th and Hall. That's the way to get more books to grab on the Grab and Go Bookshelf.
More people need to read instead of looking at the telephones.
Me, using my camera to take pictures all the time. I'm always using my phone to do my reading.
And we want to get people to look up from their phones, maybe look at something else, so we think this is a great idea. This is really our cities looking at how do we get out of our own buildings and reach people where they are.
Stories that we like, political intrigue, and then you're just sitting there looking at everything go by, so it'd be good to have a book.
Billy Moore is all set with a good free book for his bus ride, thanks to his Grab and Go at the Beaverton Transit Center. I'm Stephen Redlin, KGW News.
I love this idea. We would never leave the bus stop. All right, it's kickoff week for our KGW School Supply Drive. Our goal is to send 15,000 students back to school with the supplies they need.
And we couldn't do that without the help of our sponsor, Dick's Auto Group.
My dad, who was the founder of Dick's Auto Group, believed in helping the kids in our community be able to thrive and have the best opportunity to succeed at life. And I think this fits perfect with that.
And if you'd like to drop off your donation in person, we'll be at Clackamas Promenade this Saturday from 11 to 2.
Plus, during the week of giving, that is this week, for every $1 donated at any On Point branch, On Point will donate $5. We want to thank all our sponsors here, On Point, Intel, Safeway, and Dick's Auto Group. Don't want to leave anybody out. That wraps up this special edition on this Thursday evening. I am David Molko.
And I'm Laurel Porter. We're back with KGW News at 11. We'll leave you this view from Lincoln City, our Chinook wind skycam, 61 degrees. Beautiful there, isn't it?
It's gorgeous. And we'll see you in about 90 minutes.